Life imitate art. Does art imitate life? Take a look in the mirror to find the true answer. What do I know? How should I go? Memes and memes. What do they mean? Why are they here? From whence do they come?
Okay, right. I kind of tuned out there for a minute. Where are we? Right.
We're gonna record the show. Do you want to record about the movie, or do you want to do a different sort of recording?
I don't know.
Do you want to just do one where we bitch and complain about stuff? You in the mood for that?
What a state things are in, eh?
Indeed, they are. In more ways than one. I don't really know how to start talking, because what aspect of things are we going to start with here?
Oh, goodness gracious. Where do you start? Indeed.
Should we start with our technical difficulties we just had? Do we want to even talk about that? Is it worthwhile?
I don't know. Perhaps it's annoying.
Yeah. Maybe
annoying.
it's just worth saying that we had annoying technical difficulties. People don't really need the particulars.
Yeah, annoying technical difficulties, silly things, programs that are supposed to work not working, new computers not working as good as old computers.
And old computers still not working well either.
That too, yeah. And then also timing issues to do with all kinds of other. This is the third attempt.
Yeah, well, how about this? Let's just tell listeners that we've had a tough month. We've been trying to record a show all month, and this is a monthly podcast, so we put out one a month, and this month has been one trial after another.
Hasn't it? Yeah, we've had all kinds of things come up, like just like personal issues, personal stuff in your daily life, errands to run, things to do, things to get in the way, and having to reschedule and then we were going to record the other night, and I was just way too tired.
Yeah.
I hadn't got a lot of sleep, and I just was not in the right place to do a podcast.
Well, we've had trouble just seeing the movies. Yeah. There've been so many things. Yeah, now we're here, and now we're having the technical difficulties. So we're going to put out this episode that is totally unplanned, but I think it could end up being good. I know that listeners like to know all the behind-the-scenes stuff. So here it is for you.
Oh, right. Okay.
Here's the inside scoop, right?
The inside scoop. The inside scoop is lots and lots of different things.
Yeah.
So, lots of personal things going on, and, life in general being quite demanding for both of us in different ways, and then having to time stuff because we're 8 hours apart, and then just other little technical difficulties, and also like stuff to do with picking what movie we were going to review. That was a challenge and a half, because we'd done so many films in the past few months that were all about AI and robotics and androids and transhuman type themes, singularity stuff, that we felt we wanted to do something a bit different. And so we watched the film, what was it? John Doe.
Yeah, Meet John Doe from 1941, old film.
It was good. We both enjoyed that, and we were going to review that, but then we had so many technical problems that we just thought, screw it, and we're just going to rant and rave and bitch for the next 40 minutes instead.
Yeah, that's right. So, congratulations, audience. You get this behind-the-scenes special episode because of that.
Yeah.
See, I'm trying to turn this negative into a positive here, Adam. I think it's working.
I think so. It's more, you know what? I haven't even got the energy to get through a proper movie review, because that does actually take a little bit of effort. I've got to be sort of thinking about all these different aspects of the film and what to include and what not to include, and how to sort of lead certain topics into others seamlessly, and all these silly thoughts that go through your head when you're podcasting.
Yeah.
And it's much easier to just sit there and go, blah.
Yeah.
Which we're going to do, when we are doing.
But, I mean, all in all, yeah, apologies to the audience, but at the same time, we're still here. We're still doing our thing.
We still got the July edition out, even if it was just a bitching session on the 30th.
This counts. This is an episode.
Yeah. This counts.
You know what's funny is I bet this will be one of the most listened to episodes, and people are like, yeah, I love that show, or somebody will be like that.
Hopefully. Who knows? But yeah. It's been it feels like a long time since we had actually did a review or had like a proper long conversation, because you work a very demanding job, Baron, a lot of hours, and you have a family as well. I don't have a family, but I still work a job that's fairly demanding, and I haven't been getting a lot of sleep lately, and that hasn't helped. And I'm also in the middle of preparing to move my whole life from UK to New Zealand in the next 2 months.
That's right.
So that's been on my mind a lot, obviously. So that's kind of a big deal. That takes up a lot of your time and your energy and stuff. But I'm going to stop off in LA, and I'm going to stay at your house, Aaron.
That's right.
And do some fun things.
Yeah. So hopefully the idea is to at least record some video while you're here, and we'll have some special video presentations and things like that. So hopefully we'll be able to make something good while you're out here.
Yeah, we should be able to do something. We've talked about doing this stuff for years, but we never actually figured out what we're going to do.
Yeah.
So I say we just get the camera, we shoot up there to Palo Alto, and go for it.
Yeah, we could just go up to LA even. There's like so much stuff to see up there, and so many...
Yeah, there's so many things. I'd like to go Laurel Canyon. That'd be cool.
Yeah.
Just to see a few of the famous houses, That'd be quite interesting.
Yeah, the Hollywood Hills are weird. It's fun just driving through that area. I like just driving through there and just like looking. It's like nothing else.
Mulholland Drive as well. That'd be cool.
Oh yeah. Well, Mulholland Drive goes up along the top of the ridge there of the hill. Yeah, and then was it Laurel Canyon Boulevard or wherever it kind of like intersects with it, I believe.
Yeah, they intersect one another. Yeah.
So it's all the same area there. You got the hills going down to the south side into Hollywood, and then you go around to the north, and it's the San Fernando Valley over there. And interesting stuff in both directions, because the valley is where a lot of the studios actually are. That's where the movie studios are. And then Hollywood is Hollywood, of course, and all the Hollywood Hills where all the people live up there.
Yeah. And not only that, of course, that you've got the further up, you've got Silicon Valley.
That's a ways up there, actually. I think that's
it is a way, but it's. Oh, am I getting Palo Alto and Silicon Valley?
No, it's the same. Palo Alto's in Silicon Valley. That's the big. That's the big town there. Yeah.
I thought it was a bit closer to like Los Angeles.
No, it's a drive up north, because it's more or less in the middle of the state. It's up towards San Francisco, which is getting up to like the middle of the state. And California is so big. It's like nearly the entire west coast of the U.S. You only got Portland and Washington up there. But if you think about the East Coast, there's so many states that line the seaboard there. And then you only have 3 that line the western seaboard. And it's like at least as wide, really. I don't know, Florida takes up a lot of space, but...
Yeah, and I hadn't thought of that, actually. Of course, Palo Alto is more near San Francisco, isn't it?
Yeah, it's up there. It's up there.
Yeah.
But I'm telling you, there's all sorts of weird stuff around here. There's plenty of stuff to see.
Yeah, we'll definitely do something. We'll get them do some shooting of something, and we'll somehow turn it into something we can put on the website. I'm not exactly sure what, but who knows? We'll figure something out. It's fun, though. It'll be fun.
Yeah, it should be good.
What if we do?
Something to look forward to. Let's see here.
What else?
What about the podcast in general? What?
Well, the podcast, good point. Again, we did a big focus this year on the AI stuff, the singularity stuff, and all these films about artificial intelligence and android robots coming to life and people having relationships with them. And I mean, we'd covered that in, like last year as well, but we kind of did like quite a few films. We did like Chappie and Automata, and we did Ex Machina, and I'm sure there was something else, but anyway, those were kind of like the big three, I think. They've really set the tone for 2015 in a lot of ways in terms of the time.
Did you mention Lucy?
Oh, Lucy, we did. Was it Lucy we did? Did we do Lucy this year? Or was it last year?
I think that was this year. Or wait, was that last year? Jeez.
I'm pretty sure it was late last year.
Yeah, that was at the very end. That was like December, I think.
Yeah.
That's how I got confused with that one.
But it's the same stuff, really. And so, again, I think for that reason we were going to do. We were looking forward to doing the Meet John Doe film because it was 1941. It's black and white. It's a very, very different style of film, of course, obviously. The dawn of Hollywood, essentially, in a lot of ways.
I think that time was referred to as the golden age of Hollywood. Pretty sure they call it that.
Well, maybe that's more apt. I mean, because I know that Hollywood didn't necessarily start in the 1940s, but that's it. That was the golden era. That was kind of when things got really big, and Hollywood became the sort of cultural center of the world or the Western world in so many ways, I think.
Yeah. Productions became grandiose as well.
Yeah, very grandiose. Yeah, exactly. Yeah. So we were going to do this kind of very different film to the types of films that we usually do, but it was still very relevant in a lot of ways, and I'm sure we will actually get around to reviewing that properly at some point.
Yeah, I would like to. It's a good film. Yeah.
It's and just for people who are listening, they should probably see that. I mean, if they've got the opportunity, it's on YouTube. And it's all like, copyright free.
That's right. It's in the public domain. I was telling you that. It's actually in the public domain now. That's pretty cool.
Yeah. Well, I think it was added to. Isn't they have those public domain lists where it's a piece of artwork or
because it's so many years old and all that, so it's copyright expired. I don't know exactly what happened to it, but I know it is public domain now. Nobody legally owns it, surprisingly.
Yeah, that's weird.
Maybe nobody cares to. Maybe they don't want to like re-release it for profit or anything, or maybe there's
maybe the people who made it. I mean, maybe what's the guy's name again?
The Capra, the director.
Yes, him, Frank Capra.
Yeah.
Maybe him and his production team and his financiers perhaps decided that it was best left in the public domain.
That could have been.
And that was part of the legacy or something.
Yeah, it's like a public service announcement almost.
It's a very strong social message and quite a relevant one. It's very basic in a lot of ways, and it's kind of a bit wishy-washy and unspecific, but the emotional tone of the film and the basic social messages of the film are very, very relevant, to the world of then and even more so the world of now. So
yeah.
Who knows? That could be intentional.
Yeah, that's interesting because it makes sense. Like with Capra's films and the themes are similar like that, and that he was doing some sort of like public service, and that was the idea behind it. Certainly, with Frank Capra, I was in a thrift store in Ohio once, and I found this VHS tape. It just kind of popped out. It was a kid's video. It was a kid's animation video. I was like, what is this? It said the title was Hello, Mr. Sun. I think that was the name of it, Hello, Mr. Sun. So I looked at it. It was like it had the sun on there. I just kind of looked at it. And it looked interesting. And then I saw it said by Frank Capra. I'm like, Frank Capra? Is that like the same famous Hollywood director made this kid's animation piece? What is this? So I just bought it. It was like $1 or something. I bought it. I took it back home. And the animation was definitely lots of occult Masonic sort of stuff in there, to do with the sun and what the sun is, and
it was just
cult making the sun and all that.
That title was kind of interesting.
Yeah. Hello, Mr. Sun.
Yeah. I was wondering about that, but if we watch the film Meet John Doe, there are some there are definitely a few Masonic undertones to that in terms of what happens towards the end of the film, and also some of some throwaway lines in the film which make direct references to Masonry as well.
Oh yeah, so, I'm trying to remember a couple, but yeah, they're definitely in there. So it seems pretty obvious that Capra's a Mason himself, but he's like he's portraying that message. And part of the Freemasonic thing is that, you're doing public service, right? That's the idea of it. Yeah. That you're enlightening the world and things like that. So,
well, that's at the lower levels, at least. Anyway, you're enlightening. Yeah. You're the rough ashlar, and you hone yourself and you perfect yourself, and then once you've perfected yourself, you can go about perfecting the world. Or
that's right.
Maybe not in that order, but that's the general. Yeah.
So it would make sense that was the idea behind his films, and that also makes sense if he would purposely put it in the public domain because it's a public service thing, and that's part of like his service as being a Mason. Is I'm doing this for the public well-being. That's the idea.
Yeah. I mean, I can imagine that being the case. I'm sure that at least one of the two of the people involved in the Georgia Guidestones felt that way about it.
Oh yeah, yeah, definitely.
I mean, whatever particular. I mean, you get a pretty obvious sense of the type of philosophy or religion that these people are into. But I mean, I also think that some of the people who are involved in the production of that monument were very, very genuine, people.
Oh yeah.
And that really thought they were imparting virtue upon the world.
Yeah.
Than what they were saying. So
that's the idea. Yeah. Because the whole, this is, other people have talked about this a lot before. People aren't like purposely evil. They don't do things just to be bad. Typically speaking, most people think they're doing a good job, and the primrose path, the pride precedes the fall, all those sorts of things end up happening. You just become blind to the bigger picture, and you don't see how you aren't really you have this idea that you're in control when you aren't even in control anyway.
And you end up becoming the thing that you're fighting against in the end anyway, if you're not aware of who you are and what you're doing. That always ends up being the case.
Yeah.
You always end up becoming what you hate. So.
Yeah.
Yes.
Deep concepts, but they're true.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
So, what else?
I don't know. Well, I don't know. We could just talk about the state of affairs of things, but I don't know.
Well, let's say this: things are a bit of a mess in in what we refer to as the truth movement, and this is not something that either one of us necessarily identify with or are a part of.
No.
But something that we observe. And my goodness, what a mess. My goodness, things have really gone tits up with the whole truth movement thing over the past year or so. And the stuff we're seeing online now is so crazy. It's going in a million different directions all at once, with people squabbling and bickering and calling each other this and calling each other that. And some of the most popular ideas are the most crazy fringe ideas you can imagine, and it's just
the most hated. It's really changed. The most cartoonish bad ideas. That's what they are.
It's become like it's become this awful parody of itself. It's become like the thing that it used to be afraid of being made fun of as. It's like, I'm almost expecting like a tinfoil hat craze to be the next thing. Like where Alex Jones comes on and he's selling tinfoil hats and people are taking him seriously and they're wearing them and stuff.
One of the moments where I really my opinion of Alex Jones really took a downward spiral. I was always skeptical of him, but it was when he did that Joker thing where he dressed up as the Heath Ledger Joker, and he was doing that on air, and he was in character the whole time. Do you remember that?
Yeah, I remember that, and I mean, he has talked on numerous occasions about how he is a good actor and how he enjoys to act. And if you look at what he does, that's all he's doing all day. The man is a show businessman.
Yeah.
He's in show business. He's acting.
Yes.
He's acting. He's selling he's marketing himself. He's marketing his political ideology, and he's marketing his products and his friends' products constantly. Yeah. That's pretty much all he's doing.
Yeah. Yeah, he's a shrewd businessman. He's good at that. He's good at that. He's good at being a shrewd businessman.
Yeah, he's got a lot of people signed up for that InfoWars subscription and the Tangy Tangerine.
But the thing about being a shrewd businessman, that doesn't really jive with being a truth seeker whatsoever. That's not what it's about at all.
It doesn't at all. I mean, how can you cannot trust anyone who has financial incentive in the information and the type of information they're going to be putting across, someone who puts
financial incentive at the top of the list, which obviously he does.
Yeah,
it's fair enough if you're making money on some stuff, but I guess, but even that gets tricky. You fall down.
You do.
Yeah.
I think you'll always end up compromising in some way, and I think there are obviously going to be shades of gray, and some people can do it. Some people can get away with making a bit of money and not really having to make any real major compromises, but some people just don't care, and they're in it for as much money as they can get, and they want to just milk the whole thing for as much as they can. The truth be damned, Oh, yeah. And there are plenty of other people, not just Alec Jones, but there's plenty of other sort of cultural media pundits out there who are doing exactly the same thing with sponsorship money, and who people follow as if they are like gurus and countercultural icons and leaders and this kind of stuff. And these people they're being sponsored by they're being sponsored by corporations sometimes.
Yeah.
They're being sponsored by corporations, and they're working for massive other corporations. I mean, like Joe Rogan's a perfect example, and I do respect a lot of what he does, because I'm a fan of the martial arts. I'm martial arts myself. I love all that stuff. He does a great job in that area, but like when he does his podcast thing and he's dabbling in all these alternative topics, shall we say?
Talking about Bigfoot, then 2 seconds later talking about 9/11 or something.
Yeah, he's mixing it all in the same bag, and he does it. He does it with technique. He does it with precision. He does it with forethought. It's not just all, a random set of natural, spontaneous opinions. It's all very controlled if you actually watch what he's doing, and it's all to do with him not crossing a certain line, because he has a lot of sponsors. He's also got external employers, in terms of like Fox Broadcasting and the UFC and all these other big organizations who, if he actually came out and said what he really thought about, say, some of the evidence he'd been presented on chemtrails or something like that, I mean, he'd be out of a job and like that, and he's admitted that before. He's admitted that.
He said that.
There was a conversation in one of his podcasts the other day. They were talking about Dave Chapelle. Dave Chapelle, the comedian.
Oh yeah, definitely.
Yeah, they were talking about his big departure from the comedy world back in, I think it was 2005, 2006.
Yeah, that sounds right. Yeah, he stepped away.
Yeah, well, he was offered like a $50 million contract with HBO to produce a comedy series, to do like a whole big, whatever it was, 5 seasons of the Chapelle show.
Right.
He turned them down basically because he said that these people were evil. They were quote unquote the Illuminati, blah blah blah.
Oh, he even used those words.
Yeah, he did. Yeah.
Okay, sure.
I'm not sure if he used them then, but he uses them now. I know that much.
Oh, really?
There's a whole bunch of theories floating around online about what happened with him, and apparently there's a lot of pressure put on him by some of the other Afro-American sort of cultural leaders like Bill Cosby and Oprah and a few, Jesse Jackson and a few others. They were talking. Point being was that they were talking about Dave Chapelle and the fact that he walked away from all that money on principle. Yeah. He walked away from more money than most people can imagine on principle. Mm-hmm. And people like Joe Rogan, who promotes himself as being someone who is going to give you the truth and who's sort of completely open-minded, unbiased, who doesn't filter anything, who doesn't censor anything, who's not, being sort of coerced by corporate interests, then admits that he would take the money any day.
Oh, okay. If he were in Chapelle's situation, okay, sure.
You know, and they were bragging about that. They were bragging about that in the little podcast. They're talking about how who cares? Just take the money and go for it. You know, just I mean, if they tell you you've got to rein it in on this and stop saying that word and take it easy on this kind of minority group, then you just do it and do it for the money, and that tells you all you need to know about him and his ilk, I think. Again, not just him. I mean, I'm not trying to bitch about him alone. I'm talking about all of these sort of mainstream / dabbling in the fringe, whatever you want to call them, cultural pundits. The people really follow.
There's quite a few of them.
Russell Brand.
Yeah, Russell Brand.
There we go.
Yeah, he's a good one. Oh, you know what? There's a video of Russell Brand, and he's being interviewed by somebody, but somebody mentioned a cult, something about him and cults, and he said, I don't know any cult that wouldn't want me as their spokesman. Something to that effect. Or what he was basically saying is that he's a spokesman for cults.
What?
Yeah, I can't even paraphrase it properly now. I wish I could. There's some clip on YouTube. I'll have to try to find it so you can post it up in the link to the show maybe. But he's more or less insinuating that what he does, he's like the spokesman, the PR guy for cults.
Wow. Well, that's quite interesting, because perhaps what he's saying is, well, here I am, this voice of the disenfranchised, the voice of, the proletariat, the man on the street who doesn't have a voice, the John Doe. And the people who believe in things like 9/11 truth, and the people who believe that these elite banking families are running the world and controlling the world's destiny through there's the fiat currency and all the rest of it. Well, all these people are a bunch of cults, and I speak for them.
Well, he also is buddied up with David Lynch and the whole transcendental meditation thing.
Oh, that was only a matter of time.
Yeah, so that's cult-like for sure. So he
very much.
The thing I see is that he knows what he's doing. You know what I mean?
He does. Yeah, he does know. I mean, he's being guided. I mean, he's the whole idea of him being some kind of spontaneous rags to riches superstar is just ridiculous. I mean, I've never seen someone more made by the industry overnight than I have Russell Brand. I mean, it's just. I mean, okay, he rose to prominence over the years with his outrageous behavior as a young drug addict comic, and then as a more professional comic later on in life. But then he just leapt to stardom in the past few years, and he was rubbing shoulders with all kinds of interesting and important people in the high society circles of London, etc. And I think there can be no doubt that he's getting a bit of guidance from some higher initiates of some sort or another.
Oh yeah, definitely.
But
the thing about those guys, the Joe Rogans, the Russell Brands, is that they're really appealing to people who. It's almost hard to believe that these people are still out there, but I mean, I understand why they would be. There's people who are new to the alternative information, generally.
Well, that's what they're designed for, I think.
Yeah.
I honestly really strongly feel that these people are kind of, to use that famous Alan Watt phrase, authorized to be there. That they're allowed, that the controllers, the whoever you want, whatever.
That gets confusing. Yeah,
it gets confusing. We can talk about a million different groups, but I mean, basically the long and the short of it is that these groups are not. I mean, people. So these individuals, like the Brands, the Rogans, etc., are not really a threat to anybody. They will give you a taste of what truth might taste like. They'll give you a little bit of controversy to shake you up a little bit. They'll give you a little bit of righteous indignation to kind of help you vent off a little bit. They'll give you a sense of camaraderie. They'll give you a sense of someone speaking for you and understanding you and all this kind of stuff. But so it's a very powerful emotional tool in getting people to identify with them and kind of have that cathartic release through that, that people's champion, the leader, and feel a sense of community and bonding with that person when that person, is of no real threat to any real to the power structure in any real way.
In fact, they're actually put there by them.
Yeah, well, exactly. They were put there to make sure that people had some kind of release valve, so things didn't get out of hand, but that, they never crossed a certain line. That certain questions were never asked, that certain discussions were never had, that certain spin was always put on things, and if certain topics came up, they would always be brushed under the carpet or minimized in some way. And it's the same pattern you see over and over again with all these guys.
With the alternative in general, it's difficult because it's so dangerous because for newcomers, they're just like getting all of this kind of all at once, and they don't know where to start, and they don't have much experience in it. It's confusing, and it can also be disenfranchising and turn people away when people just see like, oh, this is too much. It takes like years and years of like actual studying and reading and contemplating to actually get anywhere, and even then you still don't have everything, so it's tough.
It is. I mean, you're always going to be in your own little Plato's cave, just to one degree or another. I mean, that's a constantly changing process, I think. But I mean, the first stages of beginning to realize that you are in a cave, in the first instance, I mean, that is hard enough as it is. As you say, you have to go through all of these different phases of looking at this type of information and then maybe getting into that type of information, then finding out that, okay, maybe this wasn't really valuable and this was maybe a bit more of a waste of time and I don't really believe that stuff anymore. And you go through all of these different phases, and it takes time. It takes study, and it takes years. It takes years of really, honest contemplation on a lot of different things, and it takes a whole reevaluation of your identity.
And that's the kind of work that's not easy, especially today, because everybody wants instant answers. Yeah. And the instant answers are all canned by these sorts of mouthpieces, and so people fall into that.
Well, that's it. People do want instant answers. They want to be told that whatever problem there is in the world that they may be looking at in any given scenario, that there is going to be some kind of instantaneous fix for it. Whatever it is, whether it's a kind of a particular narrative that they follow, or an ideology,
a way to meditate.
Exactly, a cult type thing. Whatever it is, that this is going to be it. This will solve the problem. This is it. We've got it. We've got the answers. Don't worry. Don't look anywhere else. Just come here. We've got it all. And people love that because, as you say, most people don't want to do the hard work. They don't want to actually put in the time that is required to kind of really deconstruct yourself consciously and then try and put yourself back together again in a more conscious way, if you will.
Yeah, and be able to do that over and over again.
Yeah, and on a constant basis. Yeah, the constant, recurring, revolving basis. I mean, it's hard work.
Yeah, you're never done.
Never done. No way. But yeah, it's like you say, most people just don't have the energy for that, especially in today's world where everything's, as you say, everything's digital. Everything's just a swipe or a tap or a click or a bloody fingerprint scan or an iris scan away.
I know. Everything, we've been made so everything has to be fast. I mean, even in the professional world, people are expected to be faster at doing whatever little task it is that they do. They have to do it faster now. So everything's about speed. Everything's about doing a high quantity of things, but the quality of life has been totally forgotten. We don't care about our quality of life. We just want to do way too many things all at once.
Well, it's because we've equated intelligence with basically computing power. This is on a sociological level. It seems to have been what's happened here in terms of the promotion of technology. I think has had the effect of getting people to think of, basically a higher brain capacity, a higher cognitive capacity as being akin to something like a higher processor capacity, whereby it's just simply more calculations per second.
Yeah,
it's more data.
More is better. Yeah.
Yeah, more is better, and that's it. I mean,
there's no thinking about, well, wait a minute. Sometimes you actually want to do less.
Well, yeah, there's no quantitative element to it. So it's a qualitative element to it. It's all quantitative. It's all about the amount rather than what it is, or the substance of it, or what it means.
We're rushing ahead, never consciously realizing what we're even doing, but we're building up this giant system that, we don't understand it, but it is slowly gaining more understanding of us, ironically enough. Mm-hmm. And man, it's weird to think along those lines, but that's what's actually happening.
It is. It is. I was reading something in one of these local magazines that they have in Glasgow. They give out these free magazines and newspapers on the public transport, and I was just reading an article on one of them, and it was talking about some new film with technology in it, transhumanism, blah blah blah, usual stuff, and yeah, so it's all par for the course these days, folks.
Yeah, sure is.
How far have we come, huh?
Yeah.
But they were talking about they were interviewing some actor and talking about his views on converging technologies and singularity concept and all of this kind of stuff and what he thought about it, and or it might have been some op-ed, I can't remember, but it was basically just some guy talking about the fact that honestly speaking, we don't know what the hell's going to happen. We don't know where this is going to lead. There are so many unknowns in this whole equation, but who cares? It'll be fun to find out, won't it? And it's like, well, what? I mean, you're really saying that? You've just designated like a Skynet scenario as a distinct possibility, and you still want to find out.
I mean, that attitude works in certain instances, but not in this context where we have this giant machine building itself up, which could easily replace us or redesign us. It's not something to take lightly. It's not like we have the what do I want to say, the luxury to have that sort of attitude anymore. I don't think we do.
Well, no, we don't. I mean, I understand taking risks, and I have no fear of taking risks when they need to be taken. I understand the need to take risks, but it reminds me of the arrogance of people like William Teller when he was developing the first atomic bomb. Was it H? I get the names confused. Was it Teller? It was Oppenheimer. Sorry, Robert Oppenheimer.
Oppenheimer. Yeah, sure.
Yeah. He was quoting. Basically, they were doing the first test. This is out in New Mexico or something. This is 1944 or something like that. And they were sort of testing out the first big one, and they honestly thought at that point that there was a good chance that if they let the thing off, that it might actually destroy the entire Earth's atmosphere. Like at that point in time, in terms of their scientific understanding, they'd done their calculations and they'd come to the conclusion that, yep, this might actually happen. I mean, according to our understanding of this stuff, which is, understandably limited at this point, we have good cause to believe that the sky might be burned away completely, and they went ahead and did it anyway.
Wow.
And I just remember that quote with Oppenheimer in the bunker, watching the first bomb go off, and he's quoting, I think it's the Upanishads or something, and he's talking about Shiva, the destroyer, the destroyer of worlds. I think some old Ayurvedic text. I can't remember which one it was.
Shiva, Kali.
Yeah, I think it was Shiva he was referencing. Okay. But yeah, he was talking about because those old texts made a lot of references to things which appeared to be things like atom bombs. These are texts going back 6,000-7,000 years, maybe more BC, from India, and they're talking about the fact that they used to have. I mean, the locals at the time reported things that they described it as a weapon that could split the sky in half. And gods flying around in these big sort of circular objects and all this kind of stuff. So that's another. I mean, I don't want to get into all of the speculation and revisionist history stuff, but I mean, it is kind of an interesting little side note there.
Yeah.
But
it's hard to know. There's so much pessimism and sort of I don't know. People just don't feel good about everything, about themselves, about what they are. Nobody really cares about being a human anymore, or what that could be if it was really, maybe if we tried being human for once instead of whatever it is we're doing. Everybody just wants to scrap that, and everybody's kind of just happy to do so because it makes it easier. It's like the same thing as it's the same thing as if you were to die tomorrow, then who cares? Because then you don't have any work to do anymore.
Well, it's kind of nihilistic in a sense, isn't it?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. I definitely know what you're talking about, and I definitely I spoke to somebody recently about this, and on a podcast, and yeah, I was just talking about the fact that from some of the observations I've made, not just in my daily life, but also in watching some of the kind of back and forth on YouTube in terms of the kind of the trending vlogs and stuff like that.
Yeah.
With the kind of the hardcore men's rights groups on one side and the hardcore feminists on the other, sort of arguing with one another.
Yeah.
And I mean, obviously you can sort of sympathize with both aspects of certain arguments, and I don't feel like I need to take a side in that debate, but it's like at the same time it's you can see the I don't know, there's a lot of humanity there.
Yeah, and there's also the split between the male and the female, which has been going on for a while too.
Well, that's it. The complete split between the male and the female. I mean,
more extreme.
It's so much more extreme, and it seems to have happened so much more suddenly. And I think this is, from what I've heard, and I mean, I've got other friends from the US, and they say it's pretty bad over there.
Yeah.
I mean, maybe you're a married man. I'm not sure if how much you see in your own like daily life, but I mean, in terms of like sort of single women and the way they behave, it just seems to be like obviously I'm talking in generalities here, but some of the stuff I've seen in terms of the videos that have been posted, it's just so crazy. I mean, I'm thinking, what planet are these people born on?
Yeah.
Like this, they've like just overdosed on the Kardashians, and they honestly believe that they can that they're somehow entitled by birth to live a life that resembles something like Sex in the City, where they can just go around shopping and drinking martinis all day with their friends, while some tall, good-looking, sensitive, kind, caring, extremely rich sugar daddy looks after them or something.
Yeah.
And all this kind of treating, looking at men as if they're kind of economic resources.
Sure.
And on the other side, you've got the guys who are just saying, well, women are all just manipulators, and they're all this and they're all that, and we're just going to use them for sex because they're just going to use us anyway. And it's like they're so antagonistic. No one wants to talk about, like, okay, what's happening here? Why are we at each other's throats all of a sudden? We used to kind of be able to get along to a degree, and now we just can't get along at all. Now we simply use each other. And so why is this happening?
Nobody's looking at the external pressures put on.
Well, that's
sex.
And that's it. That's the main thing.
They're not. They're all fighting each other when they should be fighting against that. Like, hey, look, why is a man defined as this, fill in the blank today? And why is a woman defined as this, fill in the blank today? And beyond that, why are there... What about the lack of definitions for a man and woman? Because there's a lot of that, too. It's like, it's kind of like there really isn't any now. It's like... You can. Well, you're allowed to do whatever you want, but
it's all one big spectrum. Yeah.
You're allowed to do what you want, but there's also like nothing of value either.
Yeah. Well, that's it. I mean, that's. I know exactly what you're getting at.
Yeah. Everything's so vapid, and there's no meaning. We're not given any meaning. That's for damn sure. The only meaning we're given is just chase these hedonistic impulses that you have, and that's good.
I mean, it's like one of those old. I can't remember who made this. It's a quote I read from a book called Libido Dominandi a long time ago, but it was something along the lines of. It might have even been like something like Orwell or something, but it was something along the lines of when social and political freedom decreases, sexual freedom conversely increases. And it just I mean, that says it all right there.
Sexual freedom just meaning the right to do whatever you want.
Well, yeah.
Just for the sake of doing it, even.
Exactly. It's just this it's like, okay, the law now says that you can stick your pink bits in this thing now. And it used to be restricted to just that thing, but now you can stick it in this, you can stick it in that, you can marry this, you can marry that. You can marry a goat. You can marry a giraffe, a shark.
People like that in the sense that they can like get away with something that they couldn't before, and it's just like this it's a flash in the pan thing though. The people who do like it, they like it, but then they move on to the next thing, and then that's bad because where does that process end? You get more and more depraved, more and more perverse.
I know, and desensitized.
Yeah, desensitized, and where does that roller coaster end?
Well, I think we all know where that roller coaster is. Put it this way. I mean, this is something else I brought up in a recent podcast. This is some of the horrific sex attacks that we've heard about in the UK via the news and stuff, where we're talking about, 11 to 15-year-old males perpetrating this upon 9 to 11-year-old girls. So we're talking almost like prepubescent almost.
Yeah.
And we're doing stuff that doesn't even bear mentioning,
Yeah.
For a child to have gotten to that point of, perhaps not destimulation, but of complete loss of, I don't know, boundaries.
Well, first of all, where would they get the idea to do that to begin with?
Well, this is what I'm saying.
Because children aren't supposed to even be thinking along those lines. Like, even thinking about normal sex for a child, that's like, even when I say child, even like a boy who's like 15 or younger, even that is like a stretch. You know what I mean? That's like a big deal. It's a really big deal.
It is. I remember when I was a child, topics like that would come up. When I was quite young, I used to feel kind of uncomfortable about it. Like, this wasn't quite for me yet. Like, I wasn't really ready for it. Like, I just wanted to go and have fun and play with some toys or something.
Yeah, it makes you really uneasy and nervous, especially boys. Especially boys get really uneasy and nervous about that whole sex thing, and that's how it's supposed to be, actually.
Well, because I think it's a natural process that you have to slowly ease yourself into, rather than just have it all flung directly in your face at age 6.
Yeah.
Thanks to all the education. I mean, the education system over here in the UK is like, oh my goodness, you should see some of the stuff that kids are being taught. It's outrageous.
Yeah, it's ridiculous.
I mean, they're literally being taught that, if they don't. Put it this way: the idea is being instilled with them that if they don't try every type of sex that they possibly can try, then there might be something wrong with them. They might be repressed.
Oh my goodness!
They might be holding themselves back. They might have been compromised by these horrible old social stigmas and pressures and this old-fashioned ideas from their parents. And goodness, we've just got to get rid of those as soon as we can. And it's.
Yeah, the thing is,
and you see it.
Kids should not be introduced to any of this at all. And that seems like you're repressing the child and holding back the truth of the world from them. But that's just the natural process of things. It's like everything in its time, right? That's how it works.
Yeah, I mean, you don't. I mean, okay, let's say some tribal societies might expose a child to violence at a young age to desensitize it to reality in terms of making it aware that there are certain dangers in its environment. Things like fire or animals. It's the old classic tale of if a young child goes to touch a fire, don't stop it. Just let him burn himself because he'll never do it again. He'll learn immediately what that means. He'll learn, right, danger, threat, can't touch that.
Yeah.
Lesson learned. But and I'd say in today's world and in a much more general sense, I mean, these are things that we've got to slowly become acclimated towards and grow comfortable with. But
you know what I think happened? I think somebody listened to Danzig's song Mother, and they're just like, hey, look, this is my philosophy. Let's make the whole of our culture based on this song. Like, we can't hide these kids from the waiting world. Come on now, Mother. Okay, get with the times. Like, just let it all out there.
Oh dear. That's literally that's the prevailing philosophy. It's all we're moving with the times. It's all progressive. It's all heading in the right direction. Everything's going to sort itself out in the end. And okay, I'll admit some of this, extreme liberalism seems to go a bit far sometimes, and all this minority rights stuff does go a bit far sometimes. But hey, don't worry about that because it's just people trying to be nice and do the right thing. So just accept it, go with the flow. Don't think about it too much. Hugs and kisses all around the world. This Jones zeitgeist. I don't know.
You know what the danger also is in the reaction. If someone like us that sees all this happening, there's a danger in the alternative now, where if you go to the extreme end in combating all this and saying, hey, look, this isn't right, that, all these horrible things are happening, you go into the extreme, like, right-wing movements that even get into the neo-Nazi thing, and then that's your answer to all this.
Well, and you see people going for one or the other, and that's the unfortunate thing. I think is that I seem to. I think you agree with me on this. I mean, it's like we seem to see people who have, say, some kind of predisposition towards conservative thinking, automatically being, drawn towards the right wing side of the whole, spectrum, and then people with left wing disposition being drawn towards the left side, and basically kind of rooting themselves fairly firmly in one camp or the other.
Each side is totally extreme. It's like there's no moderation whatsoever.
And then of course you do have a few sort of like, I don't even know where to put them in terms of the spectrum, just the crazy stuff, like the hologram, flat Earth, whatever. I mean, I can't even keep up with it. It's just it's like a
it's just so inconsequential. It's just like,
well, it's like it's like a constantly evolving sci-fi series without an actual plot. I mean, well, it kind of does have a plot, but the plots sort of make it up as they go along. It's just so I mean, then that's where we're at. I mean, that's where we're at in terms of like any kind of I don't know what used to be called the truth movement anyway.
Yeah, the trick is trying to find a foothold at all, be able to understand anything at all, be able to maintain a level head and not get carried away with all these temptations of nonsense that are everywhere. Just not get caught up in that and just keep going forward. And if you're able to do that, everything's okay, I guess, at least for you.
I think so. And I definitely feel the pull. I can understand why people do get, for lack of a better word, sucked into some of this stuff, be it on the left or the right, or somewhere in between. I can understand people's, emotional sort of desire to identify with some of that stuff, and because they sympathize rather with some of the arguments. They can feel some indignation over some of the topics. Some of that stuff might have affected them personally, and so I get that. But at the same time, it's like we talked about when we first sort of started deconstructing the whole birth of this hard new right neo-Nazi stuff. It's the difference between being able to recognize your own emotions, being able to recognize certain truths and certain facts for what they are without having to necessarily go and join a cause and nail your colors to that flag, or you know what I mean, and chant the slogans and buy the T-shirt and go the whole 9 yards. And of course that is the unfortunate reactionary state of mind.
It's kind of a consequence of our weird commercial culture that we all live into, where everything's just a commodity. You have to sell everything, and you buy everything too. So you just buy things.
Oh yeah,
that's how you solve your problems. You just, whatever the solution is, it's out there for you to buy. So just collect up enough money and buy it up. That's it.
Yeah. And if it's not like, if you're not buying it financially, then you buy it in another sense. You buy it on an energetic or an emotional level, in terms of, right, okay, I invest all my time, all my money, all my time, all my effort, all my energy, all my emotion, all my passion into this particular narrative, this particular cause, and in return I get my sense of self, my sense of self-worth, my sense of identity, community, continuity, transcendence, blah blah blah. Whatever people want, and it's commercialized in every single aspect of it.
Yeah, and back to Alex Jones being a businessman. That's it. Nothing more.
Yeah.
You don't have to be mad at him. You just have to realize what he is, I guess. How about that?
Oh yeah. I mean, I personally don't get angry at him at all. In fact, I find him a fantastic source of entertainment a lot of the time.
Yeah, you can't deny that. He's hilarious. Yeah.
He's hilarious, but in more ways than one. For me personally.
Well, that's the best comedians. They work on so many levels. They work on different levels, and they're not just like canned jokes. It's not just like chicken crosses the road kind of business. It's deeper. Works on so many different aspects all at once. That's what's good.
Yeah.
So great comedy, Alex. We're fans.
Yeah, I just love it when he goes on a rant. I find it hilarious. You know, I mean, especially when he's on like Piers Morgan trying to have I suppose. I mean, okay, that was Piers Morgan. It's never going to be a serious topic, a serious discussion. But the idea was, ostensibly, according to everybody else, that he was going to go on there and try and present the most logical, sort of, rationally based. And sourced evidence that he could.
It's a perfect time to throw in his like British accent.
Well, yeah. I mean, everybody thought it was going to be like him sort of like just really carefully cultivating this perfectly formulated like argument and strategy and bringing up the right facts at the right time and really using all of his knowledge and experience to blow this Piers Morgan guy out of the water. And instead, he just becomes this like angry preacher and just starts going 76 and all this kind of stuff, and it's just, I mean, I don't know, that stuff makes me laugh a lot, to be honest. I think it's probably because I'm not American, so I hope there's like no offense.
Yeah, I could see that. Yeah, it's a parody of America and Americans.
Yeah,
he himself is that, definitely.
Yeah, I mean, apparently, here's a funny thing. Here's a bit of a trivia for people. I mean, it's no secret, but I was listening to it was a section of a Joe Rogan podcast briefly, and he was talking with one of his friends about how, I mean, him and Alex Jones are good buddies, right? And so they were talking about how they went and got Alex really, really wasted one night. And some of the stuff that he would get up to, it was good. The fact, like they went to a barbecue at his house or something like that, and he'd like, he'd get really drunk and he'd like rip off his shirt and like start brandishing his guns and going, yeah, and all this kind of stuff, and like literally acting like a cowboy, and and just like fully lost in the character, almost like almost a personality change. So
weird.
I think it just goes back to that whole acting propensity again.
Yeah. He just plays
full-time actor,
whether he knows it or not. But yeah,
that's the question.
Yeah, I think that'll do it for now. Let's call this an episode. It's a weird episode. It's a different one, but I think we did good. Yeah,
we went completely all over the place with absolutely no rhyme or reason or anything.
Yeah,
and it's fun. Yeah, it was. I'm like mega sleep deprived, so whatever. We'll do a better one next time.
We're both a bit out of it, so forgive us. Yeah.
Yeah. But I think it was all right though. But yes. So we should apologize again to the audience for publishing such a late installment.
Yeah. But keep listening and subscribe to the feed. Website, tmpodcast.com. Subscribe to the feed there. iTunes,
Stitcher Radio.
Yeah. So please do that. We'll be back. We're gonna make more reviews. Don't worry.
Yeah, well, I think we had planned, hopefully, on doing another one soon, because we didn't do this one until quite late, and then there's at least a couple of other films we wanted to touch on relatively soon. So, yeah, you can expect, I'd say, another one from us fairly soon, like a proper film review type thing. Whether it's Meet John Doe or something else, I'm not sure. We've got a couple in the works. And then, of course, in a few months after that, it'll be video time.
Yeah. So that should be exciting.
Yeah, that'll be September, so people can look out for that in October thereabouts.
October, November, somewhere in there,
Yeah.
All right, Adam.
Okay. Yeah. It's been a bit of random fun. I hope the audience enjoyed it, and I shall see you all next time.
Today's episode of Themes and Memes was recorded on the 30th of July, 2015. That's right.
Sorry, I don't know why I did that.
It's okay.